What is up, YouTube? It's me, Mighty Fine, and I know it's been a little while. Been taking a couple of weeks off from doing these because I'm focusing on my community and my group and just enjoying life. The markets are high volatility right now, and that's a good thing so long as you know what you're doing. A lot of people have been getting eaten up lately. Volatility can kind of turn the markets into a bloodbath. So I hope that you've been staying safe and trading safe and physically safe, particularly if you're in Eastern Europe. A lot of shit going on out there right now, and those geopolitical tensions are really fueling some huge pushes in the market. For those of you that watch safe havens like the US dollar or the spot value of gold, or even some precious metals. Like last week, we saw nickel skyrocket. Yeah, there's been some good plays, but you need to be smart and patient and take the high probability moves, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today across a few different pairs. So to start off today, I do want to just briefly touch on the US dollar here, and we're going to run through 4 or 5 other pairs after that. I have some notes over here. You can go ahead and give those a read if you'd like to. This red zone right here represents the overall weekly flow leg. This is the overall current leg of our uptrend on these big high time frames. All right. And as we start to get into the details here, we can see that we have this very strong daily demand from Thursday and Friday of last week. Sorry, Wednesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of last week. And I'm kind of interested as to what happens as we open up the week here. The market's just opened up. Will we see a pullback to grab some new orders and continue to the upside? I think that is very likely. So the two areas that I would be targeting would be my H4 demand, which we'll look at in 1 second, or this daily demand. If price goes below this, if the dollar index drops below this, then I think that we're going to see a pullback relative to this overall kind of light red box that we have here. And price will pull back down even further. Now, something to note that's very important for this week around the dollar is that we have the US Federal Reserve interest rate decision. Everybody and their mother thinks that we're going to have an interest rate hike, and I tend to agree with them. That's how the Fed is going to try and combat inflation. And so it's very likely that we're going to see that push towards a higher interest rate, and we're going to see that play into both the strength of the dollar and U.S. equities markets for those of you that trade them. I trade NASDAQ and S&P in the mornings for NYSE, and it will certainly play into those. Always good to know a little bit about the macroeconomics, the fundamentals, the overarching, rhyme and reason for why things are happening in the world. You can check out free resources like Khan Academy, KHAN Academy.com. They have a great intro on macroeconomics. Anyways, not to digress too much. So first area for a pullback would be that H4 demand. Let's take a look at that. It looks something like this, that most immediate level of demand that gave us a slash push to the upside. We could see this thing just touch and go and take right on off. And if we do, strong bullish opening for the week. If that level breaks, nothing to do in between here. We'll wait to see what happens here at this very important daily demand level as well. I've drawn out these scenarios here with you, some arrows for you here. And that's just kind of my plan as the week opens up. Right now, I'm in a hard pause because I need a little bit more data and I want to see what's happening. I don't want to buy high. I want to buy low. And so when price comes back down to the areas, we'll watch for an intraday transition back into bullish behavior or bullish price action flow and look to see if we can ride this trend into the next leg to the upside. Cool. So heading into AU, what is normally my favorite pair has been kind of sluggish and choppy and divergent. And what that means is it hasn't been really playing like all the other US backed pairs. Aussie dollar has been very strong. Aussie dollar has been pushing up while pairs like GU or EU have been pushing down. So it's kind of counterintuitive right now. But if we just trade what we see with our eyes, not our egos, then it would look as though AUDUSD is trending upwards. This is our overall daily leg here in that light red. Again, we have the origin of that, the demand highlighted down here as well, which I find important. Now, if we look into what happened last week, price retested this immediate daily demand here, and then we see a rejection for Wednesday, well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This week, again, very interesting to see how we open up. If price breaks below this H4 demand, or the origin of this leg, the daily demand, then I think we're going to see some downside potential. And I may look to take that trade. It will look something like this. where we get a crack here, and then some retest relative to that leg, and a new extension back down to this zone. This would be my initial take profit level, where we have, again, a break or bounce scenario. Either price is going to go down and really go down, or it will transition and come back up to fill this range, right? So we're just trading zone to zone in this situation. Now, if price transitions off of this, can't go below it, the buyers maintain control, then we're still in that uptrend. And we're looking for price to move back up into this 0.74200 region or higher. If price can get above 74383, or 74422 rather, we're going to see a big trend expansion up into the 75200 region. That's a fantastic target looking left. So need a little bit more data. Not my favorite, not the cleanest, but we may see some potential moves here, maybe on Monday or Tuesday. Just be careful about Wednesday with that interest rate decision. Heading into GBPUSD, a little bit cleaner in terms of the trend. This is our overall weekly leg here. If we go up to the weekly, we can kind of see the story, right? Price broke flow right here. Sellers started to get control. Price comes back up, retests relative to that leg, and then again, establishing bearish order flow until we expand the trend for the past 3 or 4 weeks. As we look at the daily chart, we can see there's a lot of bearish momentum here. We really haven't had a pullback relative to that. Plus, we just expanded the trend to the downside. So my question this week is, do we see that pullback? First, we would have to break our H4 supply. Then we would have to break this very important daily supply. If price breaks above that, we may change our intra-week bias to bullish. But with all this momentum to the downside, I just want to be really careful because everything right now is looking very bearish. If we go to the H4, I drew out a couple of those directional markers here for you. Anything below the current lows here for the week will result in an expansion of the trend to the downside. This high time frame trend low line will slide on down. A play back into this immediate H4 supply could be interesting to me. If I saw an M5, M15, H1 transition come out of this area, I may look to ride this trend even further down for just, again, a quick touch and go, retest, and then expansion. If price breaks above the H4 supply, I find this area interesting as well. That daily supply region up here, we can see lots of volume came in and it resulted in an expansion leg. If price can stay below this, another selling place. However, if price cracks above that level and can create a lower time frame pattern of bullish appreciation, I think it's going to come all the way back up towards the 1.33400 region, almost up into the 1.34 region. So lots of liquidity up here. I put that eyeball for you. Lots of selling pressure there. If price can get above this, then we're moving up into that. And like I said, if price gets above this daily supply, we may adjust our intra-week bias to trade this long. However, based on recent momentum, I kind of doubt it. So let's move on to GJ. Now, something important to note here on GJ, we're in this big old ugly range, right? And before that, we had buyers asserting dominance. We got this big trend expansion. And then once that happened, price just started to range. Now, within that range, we are seeing bearish pressure. However, the underlying range origin was bullish. So do keep that in mind. As of right now, we have broken this flow. We created this high to the upside. Weekly time frame broke this flow right here. As we look at the daily, it looks like we're getting a little bit of a pullback, and that could be relative to this leg I've highlighted in blue or the overall bearish leg here in gray. So my plan as it stands is to watch how price moves upwards, watching my H4 demand and supply to see if that bullish pullback can continue. So it's got to stay above H4 demand and keep creating highs. If it can do that, then I start to get interested in the following areas. If price can go above that, big expansion there. More immediately, we're looking at this level, maybe a potential retest relative to this area over here, transition pop to the upside. If it cracks right up above this, this is still valid, right? We're looking for order flow to be established, maybe something like this, new push up, pull back, boom, 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 right? Up into this daily supply region, the red box that I have highlighted with this little eyeball right here. I think that this is a major, major zone. If we go to the 8-hour chart, we can see that there's a lot of volume here per session. And if we go back again to the daily chart, I think that we can do something like this, where we have this upper portion. This is where the transition happened that allowed this big extension to the downside. So I would target something maybe up in, you know, where this transitional behavior happened, up in this region here of 154,600. Now, again, this is where the highest price point was of supply that resulted in that expansion to the downside. So this is the area that it should stay under. If price goes above that, we change our bias back into bullish for a retest of the top of the range. So as of right now, I'm just going to sit on my hands. I probably don't want to trade this counter trend trade until we see what happens in these areas. I'm preferring bearish moves from these two unless we get above 155.226. Heading into EJ, a pair that has been extremely clean through all of this geopolitical strife and whatnot. EJ has just been a gem, and it's been fun. We've been catching some fun moves on that. What we can see here, let's go back up to the weekly to really get this perspective. What we can see here is that we do have this kind of big flow to the downside here. And as we get into this, this is what I found really interesting. Ultimately, this is just highlighting the top of that leg. This is our last major daily leg here. If I were to kind of draw the overall trend, it might look something like that. Now we've broken our daily supply here that gave us this last push to the downside. And this is where I think it gets kind of interesting, right? Can this be sustained? Can we break above this wick right here? And if so, we are going up. So it's our flow high. As we look at the 4-hour chart, this starts to make a lot of sense, right? If price can get above this level, then we're going to see that expansion to the upside. However, if price can stay below that level, I think we're going to come back down and attack that H4 demand. I think this was a overshoot of our daily supply, tapping into a previous liquidity pocket over here. We saw this huge rejection coming out of that area. So more importantly this week, I'm kind of looking for a retest relative to this bearish rejection that provided that H4 break of flow right there. And if we can get something like early week pullback into, you know, maybe one of these areas up here where we can find the supply, something like this. If we can get a pullback maybe into this supply right here, and then again, we see an intraday transition within this yellow region, I think that we would look for some sort of break and retest to push into new lows below this as TP1, and then TP2 would be this H4 demand. If it can break below both of those, you have a major potential swing position. So this could be a really good setup heading into this week. However, if price does break above that flow high, I would probably start to look for bullish moves, and that may take a day or two to set up. It's got to create a new high and then pull back for me to start to get interested. So EJ is looking good. We just need a little bit more data. And that's kind of the theme and tempo as we open up this week. We need a little bit more data. We need to see if the world's going to react to anything that happened in Eastern Europe over the weekend. We need to see if there's any speculation around the US federal interest rate, so on and so forth. So check that economic calendar and be aware. That's a major high volatility event for the week. And I want to make sure that you're aware of it so you don't trade into it. Now, if you want to learn more about what I do, as always, check out mightyfinefx.com. I am accepting new students. I don't have a cutoff date for it. I've got multiple people who have passed into funded challenges. Even through all this volatility, we trade together every morning. I trade NASDAQ, I trade S&P. We gloss over our Forex pairs. I provide weekly analysis. I have group educational sessions, and I actually answer DMs on my private Discord community channel. So if you want a supportive mentor who wants to see you win, my doors are open. I'm here to help you. If you want to get better at doing what I do, check me out. If not, like, subscribe if you don't already. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. And until next week, trade safe.